It all started with a letter taped to the front door of my cabin, bold red letters across the top. Immediate action required. I figured it was a mistake. I mean, I've owned this little lakeside cabin for years. It's quiet, peaceful, the kind of place you go to *estate people like HOA board members. But this note, it said I was in violation of community rules for living in my own property. Then came the phone calls, the warnings, and finally, a notice threatening legal action if I didn't vacate the premises. That's when I knew something was off. See, what the HOA didn't know, or maybe just didn't bother to check, is that I'm not just the owner of this cabin. Years ago, I bought more than just the house. I bought the land under it, the lake, and as it turns out, their lot too. Yeah, the very board trying to kick me out was technically squatting on my property. Wild, right? But instead of blowing up, I played it cool. I dug up the deeds, checked the survey maps, and waited. Because when they came knocking one more time, this time with a lawyer in tow, I was ready. Let's just say they weren't. What happened next? Well, let's just say this quiet lakeside drama was about to take a wild turn. A few years back, I bought this cabin from an old friend who was retiring out west. He threw in the surrounding land as part of the deal, said he just wanted it to go to someone who'd respect it. The lake came with it too. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I just wanted a peaceful spot to fish, unwind, and be left alone. No neighbors, no drama. At least, that's what I thought I was getting. Turns out, somewhere along the line, a homeowners association formed up around the lake without checking who actually owned what. They slapped up a gate, put out community rules, and started charging fees. I never paid them any mind. Never signed anything. Honestly, I thought they were for a different part of the neighborhood, not my land. Then came the violations, too many guests, unapproved changes, noise complaints. All nonsense. But they kept escalating it, acting like they had real power here. The thing is, when you've lived quietly for years and someone starts threatening your space, it hits different. So I started digging. Title records, plat maps, tax rolls, everything. And what I found wasn't just surprising, it was game-changing. The lake they were policing, I legally owned it. Their main lot where they held meetings, mine too. But I still hadn't told them. Not yet. A week after the last notice, I got an invitation, well, more like a demand, to attend the HOA's monthly meeting. Held, ironically, in the same building that sat right on land I now knew was mine. I decided to go, not to cause a scene, but to listen, to watch. I sat in the back while they argued about landscaping violations and parking issues, then finally brought up the cabin situation. That's what they called it. No names, just whispers and eye rolls, like I was some nuisance they had to deal with. The board president, Carol, seemed especially fired up. She talked about preserving the integrity of the community, how certain residents, me, weren't respecting the standards. I couldn't help but wonder if she even realized the meeting room she was standing in wasn't theirs to claim. I didn't say anything, not yet. I wanted to see how far they'd take it. Meanwhile, I started talking to a few long-time residents, ones who'd been around before the HOA even existed. Some of them remembered the original owner of my property and admitted things had gotten overreaching lately. One guy, Dave, said his shed got flagged for having the wrong kind of roof. Another said the HOA fined her for leaving her kayak on the shore for too long. Something deeper was going on here, and I was right in the middle of it. Things escalated fast after that meeting. The HOA sent me a certified letter saying they'd voted to fine me daily until I complied, whatever that meant. They even mentioned legal action again, acting like they had the authority to evict me from my own cabin. That's when I knew they weren't just bluffing anymore. They were serious. Problem was, so was I. I kept quiet on the ownership card, not out of spite, more because I wanted to understand how deep this went, and the deeper I looked, the messier it got. The HOA had been collecting dues for years, using my lake for events, parking on land I technically owned, even issuing permits and restrictions for things they had no legal claim over. And no one questioned it. They just assumed the HOA had power. Behind the scenes, I gathered everything. The original land purchase agreements, survey maps with lot lines, tax records showing I was paying on parcels they didn't even know existed. I contacted a quiet real estate attorney who confirmed it all. I had full legal rights. And not just to my cabin, but to the lake, and the common area the HOA operated from. Meanwhile, Carol and the board ramped things up. They sent out an HOA-wide bulletin warning everyone about non-compliant residents. I was officially the enemy, but I wasn't backing down. Just when I thought things couldn't get more out of hand, I found a strange note taped to my truck windshield. No envelope, just a scribbled message. Asterisk, you're not welcome here. Leave before it gets worse. Asterisk, no name, no signature. That changed everything. Up to this point, it had all been paper threats and passive-aggressive emails. Now it felt personal. And that's when I realized it wasn't just about HOA rules anymore. Someone felt threatened. Someone was scared of what I knew. The next day, I went back to the county office to double-check everything. And that's when I found something strange buried in the property records. A document filed a few years ago trying to redefine the boundaries around the lake. It had been quietly added, probably assuming no one would ever look closely. It wasn't legal, but it sure looked official. The name on it? Carol's husband. Suddenly, the pieces started fitting together. I was no longer dealing with just overzealous HOA board members. There was a real attempt here to cover something up. If they could make everyone believe the HOA owned the land, they could control everything: fees, access, development. And now I was a problem standing in their way. Still, I hadn't gone public. Not yet, but something told me the next move wouldn't come from a meeting or a notice. It'd come when I least expected it. It all came to a head the following weekend. The HOA scheduled an emergency meeting at the lake house, the very one sitting on the lot I legally owned. This time, I didn't sit in the back. I walked straight in with a folder full of documents, a calm voice, and my attorney on a quiet line in my pocket. Carol tried to shut me down right away, saying this meeting was for board members only. But I just smiled and handed her a copy of the original land deed, tax records, and a formal notice. Effective immediately, the HOA was trespassing. The room went silent. Some members looked shocked, others confused. Carol turned pale. I explained it all, how the land had been mismanaged, how the HOA had no legal standing to enforce anything on my property, or even meet on the land they thought they owned. I even showed the shady boundary adjustment tied to her husband's name. That's when things truly flipped. A few neighbors stood up asking questions, real ones this time. About dues, about past violations, about where all the money had gone. And then, just as the meeting began to spiral, Carol grabbed her bag and walked out without a word. But here's the twist. A week later, I got a call from a developer. Turns out, someone had been trying to quietly sell the lake behind the scenes. My lake. And guess who filed the paperwork? The story wasn't quite over after all. The developer thought he was buying private lake access. What he didn't know was that the deal was built on forged documents. With my lawyer involved and the real paperwork on hand, we shut it down before it got off the ground. Turns out, Carol had been trying to cash in behind everyone's back, using the HOA as her personal tool to pressure people out and reshape the area for profit. Once the truth came out, most of the board resigned, and the HOA basically collapsed from the inside. Neighbors started coming by, not with complaints, but with questions and even apologies. People finally saw how far things had gone without anyone asking why. Some even offered to help maintain the lake properly, without the rules and threats. The story wasn't quite over after all. The developer thought he was buying private lake access. What he didn't know was that the deal was built on forged documents. With my lawyer involved and the real paperwork on hand, we shut it down before it got off the ground. Turns out, Carol had been trying to cash in behind everyone's back, using the HOA as her personal tool to pressure people out and reshape the area for profit. Once the truth came out, most of the board resigned, and the HOA basically collapsed from the inside. Neighbors started coming by, not with complaints, but with questions and even apologies. People finally saw how far things had gone without anyone asking why. Some even offered to help maintain the lake properly, without the rules and threats. Now, the cabin's quiet again. No more warnings, no more mystery letters, just the sound of water and wind through the trees. I still own the lake. I still own the land. And I'm keeping it that way. If there's one thing this whole HOA mess taught me, it's that knowing your rights and your property lines matters more than ever, especially when peace and quiet are on the line. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.